$60,000 piece of equipment.
Do we have an in camera? Yeah, hey.
Not paying for it?
But I would have given it to him for free because like I got a bit of stuff in his yard,
Yeah.
which is fine. We have to ask or hey, I got this. You gotta take it, but you don't just take. You get to switch it out. So that one is a guy who's gonna go back to work, and that's the one he needs because it's 16 feet wide. You have to come take the 14-foot wide. So you want me to pay for the truck? Yeah, I do. I didn't steal it.
Confidential evaluation. I have something for in camera too that I'd like to bring up. Make time.
Huh?
Unless you're stroking out or something.
Can't promise anything.
Oh, my. Can you turn this off? Isn't it that?
I can't remember now. Yeah. As soon as Darren gets back, we'll get going.
Joy, you don't want to say anything not politically correct while we're live for 2 minutes? Like.
I didn't hear us to shut my mic off. I was already talking about that politically correct. It's okay, last time I rode my bike for last Tuesday over at 10 o'clock with G's, stayed there till 2 in the morning to get my JGS all that day.
68 pages of regulations.
Like, oh.
I want to talk to him about ice too. Okay. So everybody's here. It's pretty well 7 o'clock and Chris said we're live, so we'll get started here. So any changes to the agenda? If not, motion to accept as presented. Thank you, Councillor Brandel. Any discussion? Sorry. Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Okay. Yeah. So we'll start here tonight. Our first agenda item is Kelvin McLeod from Alberta Parks was supposed to come, but he sent someone even better. So Margot, we've never met, but we're excited to meet with you and talk about parks for a second.
Yeah, absolutely. We wanted to give you folks all an update since the meeting that you had with Kelvin back in November.
Okay.
And so I'm the operations manager for the region.
Okay.
And so I supervise the maintenance program and all of those kinds of things. So hopefully we can fill you in on some of those bits and pieces. We've all had an interesting spring.
Lunch.
But things are certainly progressing. We have actually just went up today some of the signage that actually identified the kilometers to the different points along the beach road.
Fantastic.
We were able
It went
to
up
get those.
today?
They actually got
Okay.
up today.
Okay.
So those are in place. We have interpretive signs that describe the beach and why they have groomed and non-groomed sections and things that have been ordered, but they aren't quite up, but they will be going up
Okay.
as
Love
soon
it.
as we are able to get that in place as well. For the beach grooming, we actually got a new piece of equipment late last summer that actually one person can drive the tractor and do a whole lot of the picking up and stuff. And so that is scheduled as soon as it stops raining to be able to get out and do some of that work. I was down at the beach today and was able to see that all those big logs that were out floating, hanging out in the water last summer have come in.
Yeah.
So there is certainly some work to do there, but it's on the list as the guys are able to get out and actually get that done.
Okay.
We are also need to have in place, but just need to install on the north side of the viewing platform. We're going to be putting up a sign for dogs on beach on leashes on the beach for that north stretch as well. So we'll be permitting dogs to be on north of the viewing platform as well as in that little spot down at the south. So that hopefully will give people a little bit more.
So basically
More
go
access.
down the handicap ramp and to the right is.
Turn the right,
give
and
it-
then we'll be putting a sign in a doggy bag,
Okay.
thing like we have down at the south end. And that should go in pretty soon too. What else have we got on here? Oh, we've got a plan for North Shore. We haven't started working there yet. We're waiting for the rest of the summer crew to come on before we can start doing that. But we'll be putting in some pedestal picnic tables so they'll be cemented in so they can't be carted off and done things with. Clearing a little bit of trees in that area and just trying to make it into a little bit more of a picnic area there. The last time I was here, I did notice there was a bit of erosion and stuff on the trail that goes down to the water. And we still have to figure out whether there's anything much that we can do.
So to be
do that.
clear, that you said that's on at the North
At the
Shore.
North Shore Little Deus area there.
So at the very end there of the road, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yep. And so we've got a plan. It'll probably take another few weeks to, as you know, once we get, because we've got some summer staff that come on in July. And so once we get a full crew on, we keep finding out we're opening new parts of the park. And so as things go along here, we'll get those done, but we do have a plan in place for dealing with that. Over the winter, we did get a map of the park posted on the website, the albertaparks.ca website. So we have, people can download a map of the park, both a summer trails map or summer map and also a winter trails map. So that's on there too. And then I think the only other piece was the potential of maybe moving part of the groomed beach or having some different combination. We did check with the authorities on all of that, and we have the option of moving it. We just have to work with you folks and figure out, do we really want, because we can't increase the amount of groomed beach, but we can change where it is. So do we want to let some of it grow in at the south end in order to expand around the viewing platform, some combination thereof. We also do have to look at seasonal timing. We wouldn't recommend doing any willow clearing until the end of the summer, because when we did it the last time, we ended up with all these spiky bits that were sticking out of the ground. And so we want to make sure that we aren't doing it during the busy season when people are using the beach, because we have to figure out how to do that in a way that will keep it safe. But certainly we want to make sure that we're balancing what people need. Some of the staff that are also members of the community have the idea of losing some of the South Beach. They're concerned that there are people that really, really like going to that far south end. And so do we want to give up some groomed beach down there to move it to the north? Do we want to, or do a combination of both? So that's certainly a conversation we're willing to have to see what would probably meet the needs of the locals.
Okay, Councillor Buss, sorry.
So quick question for you. With the water level up so high this year,
Yep,
we've lost a lot of the beach.
yep,
So when you're talking these 400-meter sections, you had 400-meter sections of 50 yards of beach, let's say.
Yep.
From now that the water has shrunk, you've got 400 yards of 20
Yep.
yards. So we have nowhere near the same amount of beach that we've had previously. Is there a chance to lengthen the amount that you've?
nope. Yeah, basically the approvals that we've got are for that linear 400 meters. And so it doesn't matter how much there is between the water line and the willows. And every year it's going to be different, right? We've got really high water this year. 2 years for like 2 years ago, it was way out, and it just goes up and down. So
Well, that's what I mean is that you had that stretch from the willows to the water line, and now the water's moved up. There's hardly, or you're not going to take out any of the willows to increase the
That's
the
right.
beach use, right? So effectively, we've got considerably less than what we've had previously.
well, we still have the amount of willows cleared that we've had before, but yeah, there's nothing we can do about
Yeah, okay.
extending it. So yeah, it's just those are the rules we're working under.
Fair enough. Councillor Ferguson.
So I was at the beach today, and I actually saw the signage with the distance on it. It's very nice. It points people exactly to where they are. So I'd like to thank the parks for that. It's something we've been lobbying for a while. In terms of cleanup, so it looks like equipment's already been down there doing cleanup earlier this year. But then, so you get the wash up. You said that's going to be cleaned up once the rain is done. But what's the method? So going forward, in a month we have another storm. There's a bunch of wash up. In the past, we'd kind of have to push a little bit to get that cleaned up. Is there going to be automatic now that there's a piece of equipment, or?
Well, we'll try. The challenge is that we also are, the same staff that are cleaning up the beach are also trying to maintain the campground and do
Okay.
all the mowing and all of the other things. And we
Okay.
have not had any increase in staffing. to do that. So it's balancing what we can do to make sure that all the other things in the park are getting done.
Okay, but the purchase of the piece of equipment should help
Should
increase
help-
the grooming.
It should speed it up for sure. It doesn't require 10 people to go and do it. It
Okay.
can be one
Perfect.
person with a piece of equipment.
Thank you.
But yeah, so we'll do what we can.
So I have a question about that, and so echoing Councillor Ferguson's comments. Tell Calvin, thank you, fantastic. We've been bugging him for a number of years for that signage.
Yep.
And so one thing it is that we wanted to make it clear to people that go there, where you're going, where you're gonna end up.
Yep.
And so one of the frustrations I always had was that it's Groom Beach, non-Groom Beach, then Groom Beach again. And so it can be confusing for especially tourists. We all understand it because we live here, but
Yep.
and so that's part of the reason we had mentioned before. Part of it might be more strategic to just have the groom sections together and you're just targeting them to one beach instead of multiple ones. So, I am curious. It'd be interesting to get some feedback there on whether or not people think we should keep the south portion. Like, it's nice because of the infrastructure there with the stairs in the parking lot and
Well,
that sort of
exactly
thing.
right.
But I just, maybe it's something that we leave for a year or so and see if the signage makes a bigger difference and go
Absolutely.
from there.
And,
but-
we're absolutely open. Look, we checked into it to see that we have that option. And yes, we have the option to move things around. And it could be, it could also be a combination. So make the area around the viewing platform bigger, but not the whole thing, and still leave part of it. But because we have a total maximum cleared area that we are working within, we have to let something regenerate as well as clearing. We can't just,
So do you have to
clear
wait
it
for
all
it
at
to
once.
regenerate before you clear it?
well, we have to figure out some compromise, right? Because we can't just clear a whole bunch and then the public's expectation will be then that we have twice as much. But that's not what we're allowed to do. So we have to find that middle ground. So,
Okay, fair enough.
but we also, as I said before, making sure that we're clearing because clearing those willows is not an easy thing. It leaves a lot of debris behind and stumpy bits and pokey sticks.
You basically
all that kind of
mulch it all,
stuff. So,
correct?
well, yeah, I think it would be a mulching process, but then you're not getting the shoots that are under the ground. And so that's a multiple year process to get all of because willows spread underground with their roots, right? So
Agreed.
it'll be a multi-year process. So yeah, figuring out exactly what's going to work the best. And certainly we're working with you absolutely to try to have the viewing platform area become the focal point. And hopefully with the interpretive signs that'll go in there as well and that kind of thing, it'll help to do that. So.
Well, maybe let's, because council hasn't had the opportunity to go see some of the new signs except for Council Ferguson. Maybe let's see how that goes. It's a high water year.
Yeah.
Evaluate that and have a discussion maybe after the summer about if we have both had time on both sides there to think about that maybe there's an advantage even to just adding 200 to the day use area, or not the day use area, but the handicap ramp, and expand that. Because one of the things that we'd mentioned when we were out was around the fact that we'd love to see, rather than spreading out Parks is limited on the amount of investment that they can do in those areas. And so we could probably have better bang for our buck if we concentrated on a certain area, right?
Yep.
Um,
And this year, everybody needs to social distance. So you guys have the best beach for
Yeah,
social
there you go.
distancing
Yeah.
anywhere, right?
Fair enough. I just wanted to, one other thing. So great to hear, and Calvin had mentioned about the new piece of equipment.
Yep.
Understand the weather and timing to go use that. So I get that. Obviously, you talked about the amount of debris and there's a ton of driftwood out there. I wonder if there's an opportunity to work with another government agency to maybe bring some manpower to help and get that thing done. Because from what I understand, the fire forestry guys are having a quieter year. So I'm wondering if it's more advantageous for you guys to reach out to them, or maybe we could do that locally.
We certainly can. We have some good contacts with them. And in the past, we have had them involved when we built the big piles and then came and burned them in the late fall. The forestry guys came in and supervised the burning of all of that as well. So yeah, absolutely. We can.
So I encourage you to reach out to
Yeah.
them and use that resource.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I know those guys were helping out with the Lily Lake Trail, have been helping do some work on that one as well. That's another place that they have invested some time.
they got some great hardworking crews for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Councillor Busk.
So the day use group camp, or pardon me, the group camping area just west of the golf course?
Yep.
That'll be open, same as always, or is that?
Once we're allowed to have group camps open. So right now, we're still, the group camps are in phase 2.5. They keep changing what our phases are. But yeah, the group camp, none of our group camps are open yet across the province. But as soon as they are open, then we will have that one available as well. So yeah, we'll see what
Okay.
we find out.
Councillor Ferguson.
So just another question here about campfires. So right now, it's my understanding campfires are not allowed on Devonshire Beach. I'm wondering if there's ever going to be an appetite to possibly change that in the future. From past discussions, one of the reasons why I heard it wasn't allowed is because it had to be contained inside of a fire pit, and then with the blowing of the wind, it would just eventually cover them. So is that something that parks would be willing to consider for the future?
It would certainly be something we'd have to look into. There's layers of challenges. The other piece that would relate to that, of course, is enforcement.
Yeah.
And so being able to enforce in the evenings on the beach is making sure that people are respecting the fact that it has to be in a fire pit. It's actually under the Provincial Parks Act that
Okay.
fires have to be in fire pits and not on beaches. And so we would have to create something that allowed for that to happen. And balancing the enforcement piece would be part of that for sure.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, those kinds of things don't always attract the people we want.
No,
to be
exactly.
doing it. So, yeah, but it's certainly something I'll make a note of for sure.
Perfect. Thank you.
You know, because echoing that, you know, our whole, you know, pitch or discussions with Calvin and the team that went out in November was around, you know, what small things can we do that would have a bigger impact? And so we talked about fire pits.
Yep.
The other thing, it's great to hear that you've got some picnic tables going on the North Shore, but, you know, would there be a possibility in the future, put some picnic tables down along the handicap area there, that you had some different areas where
Right.
people could use?
Yep.
You know, higher up on the beach or something like that because of water levels.
Yep.
You know, that's the kind of stuff that we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. That I can certainly, we can bring that back and
Perfect.
have that conversation for sure.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll just say that appreciate Parks taking the time to go out there with us last year. And so we physically went out, walked all these different areas and looked at them. Love to hear that, you know, responded to some of the feedback that we gave. Signage was one they've been passionate about for a long time, and the rest of us have as well. So it's great to see that. And, you know, anytime we can add some little pieces that make that area more enjoyable and more attractable and something that's, you know, that we can all market together,
Absolutely.
I think that's a win. So,
Yeah, and we're happy to meet again if you wanted to do that in the fall and do another walkabout, see how things have come together. This isn't a good summer for completely measuring how things are going, but we're still going to have people out there. And we can be evaluating all of these little steps, as you say, as we go along. So
okay. Yeah, I think for us, if we can give some time there to go out and actually see some of those,
Yeah,
that signage
exactly.
and see it work, get some feedback from the community on some of the changes that are coming, and yeah, anxious to see what that equipment can do, and kind of maybe we'll tee up here at the end of summer and see how things are going.
sounds good.
Okay, Councillor Busk has something.
Just one last question before I forget. The road has been graded or is planned to be?
We've filled the big holes with gravel,
Okay.
which we did just over the last couple of weeks. And I think it has had a grader over it once. It keeps raining.
Yeah, no,
And
like I
so
say.
But yes, it is something we've actually, unfortunately, the big holes just eat gravel, right?
Yeah.
But yes, it is something that we're continuing to work on. So, yep.
Good stuff. Okay, at this point, motion to accept is information. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Call the question. Those in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much, Margot, for coming, and
Have you, and we're happy to continue these updates for sure. So
you know what? This is fantastic working together, and we're excited. So,
good stuff.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Sorry, guys, we don't usually do a motion for delegation afterwards, but we'll keep going.
You all were in favor though?
You were all in favor. Yeah, it was good. Okay, so we got minutes from our previous meeting on June 2nd in our package on page 3. Any issues with them? Councillor King,
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of June 2nd as presented.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Next, we got Committee of the Whole on page 14 in our package from June 9th. Any issues? Sorry, Councilor Brandel.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of June 9th as presented.
Call the question. Sorry, any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Okay, CEO update. Mr. Lundy.
Your worship, I don't have anything to add, and I'm here to try and answer questions.
Okay,
If not, I'll have to get replies back if they're too tough on me.
okay. Any questions from the CEO update today? I guess our biggest question would be some around facilities. And so I know that you guys are behind the scenes, some discussions on pool. There's lots of regulations and things to work around MRC. We're getting lots of questions from that. Curious to know when we might have a better idea what the overarching plan is here.
Gary and his crew are working on the MRC as to trying to get that open. I guess I could say as soon as possible.
Okay.
On certain parts of it. It would be the field house, essentially. The pool will be quite a bit later in the summer because, as you know, they're going through doing the deep clean and maintenance on the total pool. I can't tell you when they're talking about filling the pool at this time,
Okay.
but
I heard they
they
got,
can bring that back to council.
I heard they got 70 pages worth of regulations and stuff that they have to work through that
Yes.
are outside of normal operating. So, yeah, if we could at some point get a little bit of an update on where that's headed, even if Gary could send us out an email and say, hey, this is kind of where things are at, so we have a bit of idea, we would appreciate that. Councillor King.
Quick question, and it might have been answered before. Is the pool going to be shut down again later on in the year, or is this the full jam?
No, there's, once they open, they're in full intent to work for the next year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Full jam. Full jam. We want full jam on that one. Other questions? Councillor Busk.
So in your report, I see that slow pitch and stuff look like they're opening up for the season and stuff like this in about a week and stuff like that. So it's good to see that we've got some sports coming back to the community. I see the soccer pitch over by the college is being used. We don't look after that, but it's nice to see that there is some semblance of community coming back again. Other than that, the parks and stuff like that seem like they've been being more and more used. The crews have been out there mowing and whippersnipping and stuff, and thank you. They got them looking in better shape than what they were for sure.
Okay, any questions, comments? If I see none, okay, we'll jump into reports. First one, Sam, you must be doing this for Lori.
Here's my report.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just see Lori's name on the agenda. So,
Yeah, I know.
okay. all
John, I
good.
didn't know. So the purpose of this report is for council to give bylaw 17/2020 first reading and to set the date for the required public hearing. This bylaw is coming forward to change the definition slightly for merchandising aid so that McDonald's can update their menu boards to the digital menu board, basically.
Okay. And because the applicant is not the town of Slave Lake,
That's right.
typically we don't debate these. So just looking for a motion. Councillor Busk.
Make a motion that bylaw 17/2020 to amend various sections of the land use bylaw 22/2007 receive first reading and the required public hearing be scheduled for July 21st, 2020.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
Fantastic. Thank you.
That was easy. Okay, Mr. Lundy, you're up again. Basically, all you're going to do is tell us that we need to appoint a CAO. So I'll start by saying, for those that aren't aware, our previous CAO retired in February, and we were very fortunate to have Mr. Lundy come and help us out. Has a wealth of experience and had worked with our team before, so it was a great fit. We recently offered a contract that was accepted to Mr. David Kim, who is currently the CAO for the city of Cochrane, Cranbrook, sorry, and is coming. Yeah, I'm struggling tonight. And he'll be coming July 6th. So Gordon's actually finishing up here next week, and so we'll have a bit of a gap in between. And so we need to appoint Lori Skrinick as the acting CAO during that time. So let's do that first. Councillor King.
I'll make a motion that town council appoints Lori Skrinick as acting chief administration officer for the town of Slave Lake effective June 27th to 2020 to July 5th, 2020.
Call the question. Sorry, any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. And I was going to do this later in my mayor's update, but it's probably prudent to do it now. I just want to say thanks, Gordon, on behalf of council for taking the time to come out of retirement and help us out. I know your wife's been down south working on some renovations, so you're maybe thankful to get out of that. I don't know, but yeah, it was a very smooth transition. You made things very easy, and we appreciate all of that and what you've done. And hopefully, we won't see you for a while. And enjoy your retirement again. So with that, we'll jump into a report on borrowing bylaw number 13 on page 32 of our package. Director of Finance, Roland Schmidt.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Tonight's report is to get approval for an operating expenditures borrowing bylaw for the COVID-19 pandemic. Just to give a little bit of a background, the town has opened 2 operating lines of credit in the past, one in 2011 and one in 2016. The 2011 was to ensure that there was sufficient funds if there was any cash flow issues during the rebuild, and in 2016, if there was any cash flows during the construction of the Legacy Center building. No draws were made on either of those operating lines in the past before. With that being said, it is expected that we will draw at least some funds with this new operating borrowing bylaw to tide us over until we can collect our tax revenue for the year, hopefully by September 1st. Noted in there, so we have a borrowing bylaw for $6 million. So that doesn't mean we are going to borrow $6 million. We're allowed to borrow up to $6 million. And so just wanted to note that and make that very clear that we are not borrowing $6 million necessarily, that it just gives us the flexibility should we need to go that high, that we do have that option available on the table. Impact updated in here too, just to give you a little bit of note there. Impact of the utility deferral program. So surprisingly on that, as of May, the impact has been lower than expected. For the most part, people are paying their bills on time. And for the accounts that I've seen and reviewed, generally those who have a historical trend of running into difficulties are doing so in this time as well. So we had very little in the way of utility deferrals showing up. Tax deferral program, again there, we've definitely received higher than expected payments for taxes owing. May was in line with previous years, which was actually quite surprising. However, June is still kind of the unknown there. With the bulk of the revenue being due at the end of the month, the past trends, I'm not expecting to receive the full bulk of the money in June. I'm sure there are some people who would like to take advantage of that. And with that, The town's cash position after accounting for funds designated for certain uses leaves us with approximately $3.5 million with actual cash in the bank, with a balance roughly of $8 million. We should note that interest payments on the operating line of credit would be estimated at $150,000 if we needed to take the full $6 million out for the entire year. Regardless of the interest incurred, budget 2020 didn't anticipate these additional costs. However, the hope is that the reduction in expenses due to temporary layoffs and other costs that we haven't had to incur make up the difference to cover any additional interest charges that we will have to pay. And with that, is there any questions?
Questions from council? So realistically, 2020 is a big question mark there. We've offered some deferral options for utilities and taxes that we use that cash basically to stay afloat. And so now we're giving people more time to do that. Also concerned that there's going to be timing that they don't even meet the deferral timelines, as well as we're seeing an impact obviously in revenues in our facilities because they are closed. There are some savings, yes, because we've laid some people off, but to keep us whole, like many businesses out there, we're looking at some LOCs or lines of credit or whatever we got to do to kind of bridge the gap. So I get it. Good. With that then, Councillor Brandel.
I make a motion that COVID-19 operating expenditures borrowing bylaw 13-2020 receive first reading.
Discussion, call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Ferguson.
That COVID-19 operating expenditures borrowing bylaw number 13-2020 receives second reading.
Discussion, call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Gramlich.
Council gives unanimous consent to give COVID-19 operating expenditures borrowing bylaw number 13-2020 third reading.
Discussion, call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor King.
COVID-19 operating expenditures borrowing bylaw number 13-2020 receives third and final reading.
Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Okay. So we will survive for a while. Next one, closure of the Tri-Council bank accounts.
Yes, I'm just recommending council close the RBC area Tri-Council account. The account has not been in use for several years. The balance of the account is low and is earning very little interest. Tri-Council projects have been funded through the town's main operating account, and there's just a current balance in the account of $1,625. After the funds have been transferred, the town will close the account.
Okay, questions? Straightforward. Councillor Busk.
Make a motion that council directs administration to transfer the funds held at the Royal Bank of Canada account area Tri-Council to the Royal Bank of Canada account town of Slave Lake, operating and close the area Tri-Council account.
Yeah, glad I didn't do that one. Call the question. Sorry, any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? As carried. We've got a letter from Municipal Affairs that just talks about our GTF allotment. That's what we anticipated, so not much to say there. Correct? That's what we anticipated? Perfect. Mayor's Corner, I don't have a ton. Once again, big thank you to Mr. Lundy. I can't even tell you how smooth things have been. It's been great. Look forward to the transition here in July when our new CAO comes and, the ideas and vision that he brings. Excited to see stuff going on, lots of recognition for the grads, people talking about the parades. Loved Roland Michener was doing some stuff with today with the online social media for each grad and the pictures, and I thought it was a really nice touch. Yeah, so excited to see those things happening. Getting back to Councillor Busk's comment earlier that as you're looking out in the community, it feels like life is going on, and so people are out, people are moving, people are doing stuff. Our counts still remain at the 6 recovered, so we're basically at 0. I recognize that will change, but a lot more smiling on people's faces, a lot more stuff going on out there. So it's good to see. So, I think as a community, like many communities in Alberta, as we go through the summer here, we're going to struggle with when we do start to see some numbers. It's going to change our habits a little bit. But the last week or two, you can definitely, maybe it's just in my household, maybe it was going on all along, but we're starting to feel a little bit more normal, which is welcomed. I don't know if I'm missing anything, but that's all I got on my radar there. There's some stuff behind the scenes and we're going to deal with that in camera. We got a number of things to go over tonight with some legal and personnel. So with that, I would entertain a motion to go in camera. Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Perfect.